want to win your 2025 rookie drafts, you need to come with an understanding of your 2026 picks. That's going to help you understand when you're trading back to accumulate capital, when you're looking ahead to next year's class, anticipating positional value. There's a lot you can take away if you understand that your 2025 rookie picks do not exist in isolation. So I'm going to go through a one-round Superflex, no tight end premium rookie mock draft, and I'm going to finish this episode by going position by position for another 6 to 8 players at each position group that I'm watching as potential risers. By the end of this video, you should have a pretty good idea of where your 2025 picks stand relative to your 2026 picks. All right, as we jump into this mock draft, the first thing you need to know is this quarterback class in 2026 is looking a lot more promising than the 2025 quarterback class. So the first 3 selections off the board, again, this is a Superflex rookie mock draft. They are going to be quarterbacks. And as I talk through each of the top 3 guys at this point in next year's class, I'm going to talk pros and cons, but I also want you to know that you should consider them to be in the same tier. You can interchange them however you want, but you need to go into next season knowing that these are the guys starting off at the top, potential top 10 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. So starting here with my 101, it's Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback out of LSU. He really impressed me this year, and a lot of folks in about mid-October thought Garrett Nussmeier was going to declare for this draft and probably would have been the first overall pick here, right there with Cam Ward, if he had continued on the hot trajectory that he started last season with. 6'2", 200 pounds coming at LSU. He's got good size and he's still developing. So we could see him, closer to 6'2", 220, 215 by the time he actually gets to the league. He definitely has a frame that you can build muscle mass on top of. Now, as I'm going through each of these slides, I have at the top here 2025 value comparison. So what I'm telling you is that in my rankings, I assign the rookie big board rating to every player from the point where they're a Devy player all the way through a dynasty asset here. And I'm telling you that that rating for Garrett Nussmeier today is equal to the 106, right? And baked into that value is the fact that you do have to wait a year to get Garrett Nussmeier relative to a rookie in this class. And there's always volatility when you're projecting out, right? So that's baked in. It's not one-to-one comparing them as players or even one-to-one comparing their tape grade as prospects. So this takeaway here is that the 101 this year, or the 106 in the 2025 class, is equal to the 101 in the 2026 class here. What do I like about Garrett Nussmeier? Why is he my quarterback 1? Again, this is early, folks, but I love his rocket arm strength. He can really work downfield. I like his accuracy in the deep field. He's got good velocity, and I think Nussmeier does a good job of adjusting velocity. So it's not just arm strength. I do think there's a level of arm talent there with Garrett Nussmeier as well. He's shown the ability to fit the ball into some tight windows, and he's shown the ability to work improvised arm angles. I think he's got good, clean mechanics. He's comfortable in the pocket, and he's an accurate passer. Now, Garrett Nussmeier, he has some mobility, but the knock on him, especially from a fantasy lens, is he's not a pure scrambler. He's not going to project out for 600 rushing yards, but I do think he could be a really effective pocket passer in the NFL with enough mobility, athleticism, and creative ability to extend the pocket and to get some rushing yards in a similar way where Pat Mahomes gets rushing yards. I'm not comparing the guys one-to-one, but Mahomes is mostly a pocket passer, right, that is able to scramble and extend. And I think Garrett Nussmeier can work in a similar way. 64% completion last year, over 4,000 passing yards, and this was his first full season starting at LSU. 29-12 touchdown to interception ratio, which we absolutely love. That it shows good decision making. But I mentioned off the top, he struggled after the first 6 weeks of the season. He kind of hit a 1 month lull where he really got into the midst of the SEC defenses. He struggled with a little bit of that processing and decision-making ability, and then he finished the season on a bit of a high year. And so that's why Garrett Nussmeier was in the mix, but ultimately I think a really strong choice for him to go back to college and get another year of developing, and he's going to have a real shot to be the first overall pick in the 2026 draft. But if not, he should be looking at a fairly safe top 10 projection. Now, the next guy, not as much of a safe projection. We don't have as much of a sample size on quarterback Arch Manning out of Texas, but I think it's fairly inevitable that we have to talk about him off the bat in this mock draft. Now, what's there to like about Arch? He's got good motion. I like his release, his footwork. Overall, his full passing profile, it's very clean. It feels very polished. Now, Arch, especially compared to the quarterback we just talked about, he is a much more athletic improviser, right? So where Nussmeier is a bit creative, he can adjust those arm angles. Arch has the ability to extend the play with his legs. He keeps his eyes upfield well, but that's definitely something he needs to continue to develop on this year. He is more of a legitimate rushing threat, right? Designed runs. He can execute in the red zone for those rushing touchdowns, which we love for fantasy purposes. He's got some elusiveness, some fluidity to his game. If you haven't watched Arch Manning and you have the idea of his uncles, Eli and Peyton, in your head, wipe that away. He is a different archetype of a quarterback here. And you pair that with a really nice frame, folks, 6'4", 225, and he's mobile. It's not just the last name. Here's the thing with Arch, though. We have a very small sample size. Just 4 games as a legitimate passer. Now, he was used pretty consistently in Texas's offense, not only this year, but also going back to his true freshman season in 2023 as kind of a package, mobility, creative, rushing type quarterback. But he had the opportunity, in 2 cleanup games, or I'm sorry, 1 cleanup game, and then 2.5 games that Quinn Ewers missed with injury. He had the ability to be a full-time starting quarterback, and he did well in those games. 67% completion, 939 yards, a 9-2 touchdown interception ratio, which for me is the best stat that I can throw out there for a young quarterback, just tossed into action in the Steve Sarkisian offense, which is a difficult offense to learn. Now, the caveat here is that his opponents, UTSA, University of Louisiana Monroe, so not the toughest opponents for him to be thrown into, but still, he had, he was thrust into action on the big stage, and he performed very well. Now, with Arch, the one thing to keep in mind here is there's a real good shot he's going to stay at Texas for 2 more years. So we're talking about him because he's 2026 eligible, and he certainly could with a really strong season head into the 2026 draft class. But the Manning family has shown they are in no rush. He redshirted at Texas. I think he's going to want to be there for 2 years. So there's a real good shot we're actually talking about him in the 2027 class. Now, 103 is going to be Drew Allar, somebody who I'd say out of the top 3 guys we were talking about here for the quarterback position was the closest to declaring in this 2025 draft. And I still think he would have been a first-round pick. It's probably the second guy off the board, despite really struggling in the college football playoff. But he decides to go back for another season. I like that choice. He's going to compete in a strong quarterback class. Now, Allar also has a big arm, so he's got good arm strength. I like his timing, and you can see at times his timing. It enables him to win at all 3 levels of the field. So he does well working into the deep field, and he's pretty consistent over the middle of the field, working the middle section of the field. Now, Allar, he's a little bit of a combination of the first 2 archetypes that we talked about. He's got some mobility and he can move the pocket, but he's not as fluid and as athletic, elusive as Arch Manning, but he's definitely more of a refined pocket passer than Arch, right? So a little bit of Garrett Nussmeier here. You're kind of splitting the skill sets of the first 2 guys. And if we're talking about where this pick, the 103 right now in the 2026 class fits, right now it's equal to Travion Henderson, who is the 108. And again, folks, this is a value comparison. So Alar, 66% completion, 3,300 passing yards, 24 to 8 touchdown interception ratio, a nice 6 rushing touchdowns, and over 300 rushing yards on top of that. The reason that he didn't declare is because his decision making, it was a little hit or miss throughout the season, but it really was a big blemish in the big game. So he struggled in the middle, in the regular season against Ohio State, and then he struggled in his college football playoff appearances. And that really left a sour note on his draft status. So I think he was smart to go back. He's got to look more refined. He's got to look like he has better decision making. All right, let's get into 104 here, and that's running back Jeremiah Love. So we're moving off of the quarterbacks here. We're starting to get into other positions, and Love is definitely starting off this process as my running back one. We're going to talk about another player here in a moment who other folks might have running back one, but I was really impressed with Love, who, quite honestly, folks, wasn't really on my radar, at least at this level, going into the 2024 season, but he's absolutely atop the list going into the 2025 season. I like his vision. I like his change of direction ability. When my running backs have good vision and good ability to change direction, hit those cutback lanes, that is two big check marks for me. He's an explosive runner. He's a powerful runner. So he does well in between the tackles, and he can work off tackles. So there's some good versatility there. 1,100 rushing yards, 17 rushing touchdowns as a true sophomore. His first year as a starter, the Notre Dame offense really took the helm there, averaged nearly 7 yards per carry. He's not the most refined pass catcher at this point in time, but 237 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, certainly nothing to shake your head at there for Jeremiah Love. And at 105 is going to be another running back, and that's going to be Nick Singleton. Now, at this point, I am projecting both Singleton and Jeremiah Love to be in that 21 to 50 overall range in terms of NFL draft capital. So I don't think we have a locked in first round running back in next year's class the way that we had a locked in first round running back, or we have currently in this 2025 class. So when you're thinking about these running backs, you're thinking more of back end first round value. Again, directly comparing them to the 2025 class. So Singleton, he's powerful. I like him particularly between the tackles. And he has some of the most freakish athleticism that you can put on tape from a running back. 6'0", 227. And the way that he moves, his explosiveness, his athleticism, his agility really impresses you. But my goodness, this man is an inconsistent runner. I mean, he'll have explosive burstiness on one snap and then just look like an absolute plotter on the next snap. He'll get down through, get his hips low, really cut and explode through a cut on one play. And the next play, he's straight up. He's losing leverage completely. He does win pretty well in short yardage situations, and he did definitely improve from 2023 to 2024. But this is a player, former 5-star guy, number 1 running back in his class. He's had some really high Devy expectations. And at least at this point, he has not lived up to this billing of a locked in first round, NFL draft capital type running back. And so the expectations will continue to stay high on Nick Singleton. But it wouldn't shock me if he's actually lower than 105 when we actually get to your 2026 drafts. By the way, folks, as we're thinking about the totality and the value of all these players I'm talking about, it's really important to point out that there are always guys who come seemingly out of nowhere or much further down rankings and shoot up. Even Ashton Genty at this point last year probably would have been, running back 4 to 6 consensus on most Devy analyst boards, right? And so at the end of this episode, I am going to talk about another half dozen or so guys at each position who I think could have big rises. If you do want access to my full Devy rankings as well as my Dynasty rookie rankings, by the way, we just dropped the 2025 rookie guide. Volume 1, Volume 2 will come out the Monday after the NFL draft with over 108 pages of rookie value. You can head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. You get all of that for just $5 a month. The link to join will be in the episode description. We also have an awesome Discord for personalized advice just for your roster. I do one-on-one draft strategy calls, 30-minute chat. Hop on, talk with me. And I also have 2025 seasonal projections for every single Dynasty player all available for the Rookie Big Board patrons. It's a really great value. If you're interested, you're watching this type of video, this is the content you're absolutely going to love. All right, 106 here. Let's get into Carnell Tate. He's the first wide receiver that we're going to talk about here. And quite frankly, folks, the wide receiver group is wide open. We're going to talk about some potential risers at the end, but off the top, this top tier of wide receivers, it's not nearly as impressive as our top tier wide receivers this year, and it's nowhere near the 2024 wide receiver class. So if you're looking at a position that's a bit down, at least at this point, looking ahead to next year, you would look at the wide receivers and transparently, honestly, you would say they're down a good bit. But what do I like about Carnell Tate? Why is he the first guy I'm mentioning? 6'3", 191, so he's got good size. Oh, look, he just picked an Ohio State wide receiver. All right, that would be a fair take, but I promise you it goes beyond that. Carnell Tate, he's got really nice, clean, consistent hands. I like his ability to work inside, outside. It'll be interesting to see, if they use him a little bit more over the middle of the field with Ibuka moving on to the NFL. Despite the fact that, yes, Jeremiah Smith is the dude in that offense and there is some next guys up ready to go, I do still really appreciate the production that Carnell Tate has put forward heading into this season. And I do expect him to be right up there with Jeremiah Smith as kind of that next man up in this Ohio State offense. 52 receptions, 733 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging over 14 yards per reception is absolutely nothing to shake your head at. At 107 here, we're going to go back to the quarterbacks. We have another mini run at the quarterback position here, and we're going to go with Nico Iamaleava. Now, this is one where there is a ton of volatility, so I'm just being completely honest with you here. It's the 107 in this 2026 mock, and I'm putting that as an equal value to the 202 in a 2025 mock draft. So Nico, he's 6'6", 215. He certainly has the size. He certainly has some serious arm talent. He has the ability to really push the ball deep. He's got good velocity in the short field, and he's got good mobility, especially for a guy who's 6'6", 215. But folks, I'm a Tennessee fan. If you're watching here, you could see the Tennessee helmet in the jersey in the background, and I honestly was not thrilled with what we saw from him this year. There's a lot of developing that still needs to happen. He really struggles with accuracy, especially deep field timing. As I'm saying this, I'm just seeing all of the flashes of the overthrown, mistimed deep balls. He really struggled with that in 2024, and they're just flying through my brain. The processing ability, it needs to get stepped up. And he also needs to be able to really lean into his mobility. He's a good rusher and he's fluid, but he's really tentative and hesitant to actually take off. So Nico at 107 is an upside projection. It's swinging towards the positive end of his value volatility. And I will say, similar to Arch, who I mentioned earlier, Nico is somebody who I absolutely could see spending 2 more seasons at the collegiate level. So although we're considering him in this 2026 mock, you also very well could see him in the 2027 class. Somebody who you definitely will see declaring from the quarterback position in the 2026 NFL draft is Cade Klubnik, the quarterback out of Clemson. And I got to tell you, I came in with relatively reserved expectations of Klubnik into this 2024 season, and he really impressed me. And so he deserves to be higher up on the radar heading into 2025. 6'2", 215, former top recruit here in Cade Klubnik. He has good processing ability, good decision-making. I think that was really what stood out to me in terms of improvement from 2023 to 2024 with Cade Klubnik. Really clean mechanics as well. I like his footwork. You can tell his footwork, his lower body is in sync with his upper body, which is not something you always see for quarterbacks that don't have a ton of experience, but he's absolutely there. Completed 63% of his passes last year, over 3,600 passing yards. And I love this stat, folks, 36-6 touchdown to interception ratio. I think what really surprised a lot of folks, it's still not getting enough hype and attention. He's a pretty mobile guy. He had 463 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns last year. I don't think you think of a rushing quarterback when you think of Cade Klubnik, but he definitely has that versatility, and that's going to really boost his fantasy football upside. Speaking of upside, at 109, I'm going to say the name. It's Evan Stewart. Folks, what do we do with Evan Stewart? Some people want to turn the video off right now as soon as they hear Evan Stewart. How in the world did he make it in there? I got to tell you, folks, I watched this tape going into the 2024 season, and I thought to myself, man, the production isn't there, but I like what I see, right? And then I went on, and the production wasn't great in 2024. And so I'm watching the tape to get ready. I thought he was going to declare. So he got a full film review like any other wide receiver in this draft class for me in 2025. So he got the full film review. I flip it on and I go, man, the production's not there. But when he catches the ball, when he gets the ball, when he gets the targets, it's there, man. He's a really talented wide receiver, folks. 6'0", 175. He's speedy and he separates into the deep field very well, but it's not just with his speed. I think he's a nice route runner. I think he has good footwork through his routes. He sinks his hips well. He flips them. He's able to shake off defenders. And I like his release. He's got good ball tracking ability. You see, for a guy who's 6'0", 175, he can win a contested catch situation. And he does it with good ball tracking ability, and he knows where to put his body. I think in the NFL, he's going to have some good inside-outside versatility. Now, 48 receptions, 613 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's inconsistent. It's not what we want to see. I don't want to sugarcoat this, right? We need to see that better production. But I'm telling you, if we do see that production, we're going to be talking about Evan Stewart as a first-round NFL draft pick and certainly a first-round rookie pick. We're not there yet. Right now, I'm projecting him as a day 2 pick, but we certainly could get there. 110, a wide receiver who I just don't think is getting enough credit at this point in time. I'm going to talk about Makai Lemon out of USC. Really good season in a really chaotic offense. And I just don't think he's getting enough hype. So I want to give him a little love here. 5'11", 190. He's a reliable target. I like Lemon's ball tracking ability. And I like his athleticism. He's fluid. He can win before the catch. He can win after the catch with that athleticism. Good footwork, separates well. 52 receptions, 764 yards. That might not sound the most impressive, but I'm telling you, folks, with the quarterback rotation there, Miller Moss to Jaden Mayava, there was just a lot going on there. And for 14.7 yards per reception and 3 touchdowns in that offense, I think that was really solid. And it shows me enough to believe that he's going to have a true breakout national spotlight type season. And Makai Lemon is the type of guy that I'm reaching out. If I'm in a deep Devy league and he's already on rosters, I'm reaching out. I'm feeling if I could get him. If not, he's going to be a really prime target for me going into Devy drafts heading into this season here. 111, we're going to go back to the running back position. And I want to talk about a power runner here. How about Darius Taylor, the running back out of Minnesota? 6'0", 215. Now, you'll notice here in terms of the 2026 to 2025 value, there's a big drop-off here, right? The 111 in this 2026 mock draft is equal to the 301 in the 2025 draft. Now, why is that? There's just a lack of confidence, right? As we get deeper into this class, especially at the running back position, there's lots of upside and there's lots of reasons to be excited. But when we're comparing, what's the value of trading potentially a 2025 pick during your rookie draft to get a 2026 pick, there's a lack of confidence once you get past, let's say 105, 106, really. I think that's kind of the drop off for me. But back to Darius Taylor here, just the player himself. 6'0", 215, good frame, built out frame very well. I think he's got the ability probably even to put another 10 pounds on that before he actually gets to the NFL. Wins in short yardage situations. I like his power run style. He wins leverage, which is a very impressive thing, especially at that size. Solid vision. I will say I think he's best between the tackles, but a really good pass catcher as well. He is just shy of 1,000 rushing yards this season, 10 touchdowns in a Minnesota offense that, I'm not trying to dig on any of my Minnesota Golden Gophers fans. Wasn't the most, efficient offense this season, but Darius Taylor was certainly the bright spot of it. Here's what really stands out to me when you're thinking about Darius Taylor. 6'0", 215, folks, and he's a pass catcher. 54 receptions for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really nice profile there. And if Darius Taylor can continue to put up that type of production through the air and on the ground, I don't think he's going to make it necessarily to 111 in your 2026 rookie drafts. All right, only one more guy that gets the full profile here, and then we're going to go through a few watch list names here. And I'm going to go with wide receiver Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. This was the toughest pick for me because there were a lot of names I wanted to throw into this 112 spot, but I just don't think Tyson is getting enough chatter. So I just wanted to throw him in here. 6'1", 195. We saw him really explode onto the scene in the college football playoff. He's an athletic receiver. He wins downfield for sure. I like his reliable hands, and I like his ability to win in contested catch situations. 75 receptions for Jordan Tyson last year, 1,100 yards, almost 15 yards per reception, and 10 receiving touchdowns. He is certainly deserving to be in this conversation, with Evan Stewart, with Carnell Tate, for who could be the wide receiver one. You should consider all those three guys in the conversation, despite the fact that they showed up at different times in this mock draft. Now, I did talk about a lot of quarterback names, and I do think the quarterbacks are going to be the strength of this 2026 group, but I've got a few more that I want to talk about, right? Because risers absolutely can happen, and some of these guys aren't even risers. They just didn't make it onto the top 12 names. Lenoris Sellers, athletic, dual threat quarterback out of South Carolina. You're going to see him go fairly high in Devy drafts this offseason because of the upside that goes with a Russian quarterback. I do think he could potentially be in the 2027 draft. Dante Moore, quarterback for Oregon, started as a true freshman at UCLA. Now he's going to get the reins of the Oregon offense here. And what we're going to see is, really what Dylan Gabriel is stepping off of, what Bo Nix was stepping off of. We're going to see if Dante Moore could have that high processing ability, if he has that accuracy, if he has that timing. And he also has shown already he's got a lot of athleticism to go with that. So I'm very excited to see Dante Moore. If he has a great season, he could declare in 2026, but another guy who could show up in 2027. Avery Johnson. I love Avery Johnson. He's a real sleeper for me. I think he's got excellent mobility. He really showed that he has good accuracy and good decision-making this year for Kansas State. He's my sleeper guy. Of all the quarterbacks on this list here, Avery Johnson is my sleeper. John Mateer lit it up at Washington State last year. Real gunslinger type quarterback. He's going to be at Oklahoma this year. So if he can perform for the Sooners, he's going to be in a really good spot. Gunnar Stockton, taking helm of the Georgia offense here. We saw a little bit from him in the college football playoff and at the end of the season when Carson Beck went down with that injury. It's good what we saw from him, but we need to see it consistently over the course of the year. Rocco Beck out of Iowa State here. He looked really good this year. He definitely outperformed my expectations. Good accuracy, good decision-making, clean pocket passer, but he did lose Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. So I'm curious to see if he's going to look as good this year without those two guys. Eli Holstein, man. I think Eli Holstein out of Pitt had a really sneaky season. Former Alabama commit, transfers to Pitt. He looked really good. Clean pocket passer, good decision-making. Really a guy who can stand in the pocket under pressure, take a hit, really get that ball out. I think he's a sneaky guy to watch. And then I guess technically I have to put Carson Beck on this list. I was really disappointed with his overall 2024 season. I think he was very smart to go back, get the bag at Miami, and there's certainly an opportunity for him to improve, develop, and look a lot better. But we saw just generally that his arm talent and his mobility was limited, and so that's going to limit his Devy value. But I do feel like he needs to be still in that discussion. Overall, the quarterback class in 2026, it's a big improvement on 2025. I wouldn't say it's quite as high and quite as optimistic as 2024, but it's closer to 2024 than it is 2025. Let's get into some watch list running backs here, starting with Kaytron Allen. Kaytron Allen really deserved to be in the top 12, but he never gets mentioned in it. And so I'm reflecting consensus here more than my actual feelings. In terms of pure tape grade, I had Kaytron Allen graded out better than Nick Singleton. Why? He's got better vision. I like his ability to win leverage more consistently. Kaytron Allen smashes between the tackles. I like his change of direction ability. And really, me putting him here is just reflecting consensus. I want to give you a fair idea of how your drafts might shake out. But I can tell you, Keyshawn Allen is an early candidate to be my top target in the second round of rookie drafts next year. And I will be soaking him up, drafting him absolutely everywhere he's available in Devy drafts. Justice Haynes, we could call this copium. We could call it, just can't quit. But Justice Haynes, he's had some good flashes at Alabama. Now he really should step in and be the dude in the Michigan offense. And the dude in the Michigan rushing attack over the last few years has done very well for themselves. And so I want to see all of Justice Haynes' athleticism, his power rushing ability, his vision. I want to see that all come together here this year for the Michigan Wolverines. And then we could be back in on him, and all my Devy shares can be revived. CJ Baxter, man, I really like CJ Baxter. And I think we would be, I think CJ Baxter would be the consensus running back one right now if he had not gone down with injury at the beginning of last season, right? It's hard for me to project him, just based off of what we saw in smaller sample size from his true freshman season. But if he comes back this season and he's fully healthy from that lower body injury, then CJ Baxter, he's got the athleticism, he's speedy, he's laterally quick, he's got good hands, he's got good downfield acceleration, he's a high upside home run swinger type guy. I really like him. Just like his five-star, recruiting classmate in Ruben Owens, who's at Texas A&M. Got a little bit less hype coming out of his true freshman season, but I really liked his true freshman tape. He's got good hands. He works really well in space. He's got to get, in between the tackles down a little bit, but I do think he's got good anticipation, good lateral movement ability. And so there's a lot to like about Ruben Owens as well. Mekhi Hughes, very productive guy out of Tulane. Now he transfers to Oregon. The Oregon running back has been a featured position. And so, it'll be interesting to see whether that athleticism really holds up, that speed holds up when we get to like Indianapolis time next year for Mekhi Hughes. But the point is that he's going to be on the radar and he deserves to be discussed. Jaden Ott, man, Jaden Ott's been floating around for a little while, and he struggled with some injuries and staying on the field and being consistently productive. But when he is on the field, he's got home run potential, downfield acceleration ability. He's got good downhill running power ability here. There's a lot to like with Jaden Ott. Jam Miller, we still haven't seen the Jam Miller breakout, but he also hasn't gone away. He should be the lead running back in the Alabama offense this season. And so I felt like he had to be on this list. And Desmond Reed, I'm just throwing out, I'm just throwing out the name Desmond Reed, man. I tell you, I have no affiliations to Pitt, but I've caught a decent amount of Pitt games last year. And Desmond Reed, man, he really impressed me. A quick lateral twitch guy. I don't know that he'll be a top 50 guy or even a day 2 pick. Maybe he's a day 3 pick, but I want him on your radar because when you watch him, man, he really pops out. He's explosive, he's quick, he's agile. And if you're, just throwing some real late round darts and maybe a depleted Devy draft, just keep Desmond Reed on your radar. Overall, I would say this running back class, it should be on par, maybe slightly down compared to 2025 because we don't have this true standout running back one yet. But Ashton Jeanty did not exist at the level that we have him at this time last year. So I think if you're saying, 2025 versus 2026, we'll say, the running back class on par. We'll call it even. All right, wide receivers here, a few more names to think about. Brandon Inniss, he'll be in that rotation for next man up at Ohio State. Zachariah Branch, man, this is somebody who at times has been my Devy wide receiver one in this class, and he's fallen off a little bit just because I've noticed a trend of manufactured production. But that was in the USC offense. So I was very hopeful when he hit the transfer portal, that he could be used as more than just a gadget guy, more than just, a yak type receiver. He goes to the Georgia offense, which hasn't proven to be, really fantastic for wide receivers. So we're going to hope he plays in that Ladd McConkey role, that slot role where he can really win off the seam, win over the middle of the field. And if he could do that, he'll probably be a first-round NFL draft pick, and he'll return the value that we've had on him. But I'm not super optimistic at this point in time. Antonio Williams, kind of flying under the radar, wide receiver out of Clemson, good hands, good possession type guy. He's got enough speed to win. I like his route running ability, really kind of well-rounded guy. Nick Anderson, not getting a ton of hype. Nick Anderson transferred to LSU. this offseason from Oklahoma. Deep field specialist. This man can absolutely burn downfield. He's got great hands, good contested catchability, excellent ball tracking. He'll win before the catch point. He'll go up, he'll attack the ball. A lot to like about him. I also really like my guy. This is my really underrated guy. Nobody's talking about Aaron Anderson, also a wide receiver at LSU. A little confusing, but Aaron Anderson has been there. He's more of a possession over the middle slot type guy, but super good hands, really nice production over the first few seasons of his LSU career. Kevin Concepcion has been at times, a really prolific receiver in the NC State offense. He transferred this offseason, so he'll be in the Texas A&M offense, and nothing says, nothing fills me with more gloom and disappointment than the idea of a talented receiver going to Texas A&M. So we'll see what happens there with him. Eugene Wilson, the third out of Florida, super exciting guy. He really burst on the Devy scene, early breakout in terms of value because he had a great production as a true freshman. But another guy, he was very gadgety. Targets near the line of scrimmage, low ADOT, asked to do a lot after the catch, twitchy elusiveness type, guy, but good hands. And hopefully with DJ Lagway, maybe we can see him used a little bit differently. And just one more name to watch here, Deion Burks. I was really excited going into this past season with Deion Burks, transferred from Purdue to Oklahoma, suffered injury early on in the season. And so he was, not really utilized in the way that we would hope. He wasn't fully healthy, but heading into this year with John Mateer, we're hoping it all comes together for Deion Burke. So, the value is not quite as high as some of the other guys I mentioned in this watch list at this point, but I think he could have good rebound day 2 type potential. So again, if we're comparing 2025 versus 2026, I would say wide receiver class overall, it's a bit down. We have to drop them down. And let's move on now to the tight end position. And you'll notice I didn't forget about him in the top 12, just nobody that I wanted to take in the first round. And we don't have a Tyler Warren in this class. I don't see us having one, but Oscar Delp is going to be the candidate. Oscar Delp has been the default Devy tight end 1 for this class for a while. He's the Georgia recruit. He's athletic. And at times he's flashed. In 2023, when he had to step in for Brock Bowers, he looked really good doing it, was hyper productive, got a lot of folks excited. But then, we came up to this 2024 season and he was used sporadically, but he wasn't really this dominant physical receiver. And so we really want to see him eat with some good volume this year to get us excited. Tanner Kozoil, tight end, was at Ball State, super productive, good size, good athleticism. He's transferred to Wisconsin, and so we get to see the Wisconsin tight end hopefully really shine. Eli Raridan, the next man up at the tight end position at Notre Dame. That's going to be an athletic possession type receiver or tight end to watch with good blocking ability. Luke Haas transfers from Arkansas to Ole Miss, so it'll be really interesting to see. We haven't really seen an Ole Miss tight end eat. We've had some really athletic guys head to Ole Miss. So that was kind of an interesting choice for me just in terms of scheme, but I wonder if we see him used as a quasi receiver because he's definitely athletic and he definitely has good hands. Bauer Sharp, Ethan Davis, Jelani Thurman, just kind of round out a few names to watch. And so if we're comparing here the 2026 tight end class to the 2025 tight end class, we'd have to give the advantage to the 2025 class, both in talent at the top and depth. So again, let's do a full tally here. 2026, better at quarterback. 2026, just about even, maybe slightly down at running back. 2026, down at wide receiver, and I would say down a good chunk at tight end. So when you're looking at the value overall of the 2026 class, when you're thinking about trading back in your rookie drafts, when you're just thinking about your relative value pick to pick, you do have to, of course, always take about, in this case, in the most part, we're looking at about a half round drop in terms of just the wait time to get to the talent. And then you have to consider the position that you're looking at, what your roster needs. If you are in a full rebuild, targeting quarterback in a super flex league, then I'd say lean into those 2026 picks, add those up. If you're looking to build through the wide receiver position, maybe don't be as eager to add those picks. The running back position will be there. You shouldn't ever bank on building through the tight end position. But overall, that should give you an idea here, not only of your 2026 picks, but hopefully that gives you more confidence in the way that you approach your 2025 drafts. And if you're looking for more confidence overall in the way that you build your dynasty rosters or approach your rookie drafts, folks, I cannot encourage you enough. This is the perfect time of the year to give the rookie big board a shot. You can give it a shot for just $5 a month or save 15% off with an annual membership, which I highly encourage you to do. If you're watching this video before April 3rd, you can actually get 30% off an annual membership. We're running a special because the 2025 rookie guide just came out. You get the guide, rookie Devy dynasty rankings. You get NFL projections for every single dynasty player and personalized advice via the Rookie Big Board Discord, as well as one-on-one draft consultation calls. You absolutely cannot beat it. We're going to be giving you insight here at the Rookie Big Board to win your rookie drafts, to build dynasty fantasy football championships all off season long. We're going to be back real soon with some more 2025 rookie content.